How to get onto your dream graduate scheme. I'm going to give you a 5-part blueprint that you should follow and keep in mind if you want to get on a high-paying graduate scheme this year. And it's going to put you in a really good position when it comes to standing out from the other candidates. If you do these 5 things, it's really going to boost your chances of getting onto your dream graduate scheme. Real quick, if you're struggling to get onto a graduate scheme or you don't know where to start, then I highly recommend that you check out my Graduate X premium course in the description below. It's basically a step-by-step program that teaches you how to get past each stage of the graduate recruitment process for any graduate scheme that you're applying to. And I'm currently on a graduate scheme myself. I've received multiple graduate scheme offers back, so I know a little bit about this process and how to pass it. So I teach everything in my Graduate X program. If you want to check that out, once again, link is in the description below. So what's a 5-step blueprint to getting onto your dream graduate scheme? Well, let's start with the first thing. If you're sitting down and you're thinking of what to do, the first thing that you're going to want to do is do some research. And that's the first step of the blueprint. Research what is out there using job boards like GradCracker and Target Jobs. So GradCracker and Target Jobs are like the biggest job boards when it comes to finding graduate schemes. They usually have the best ones, the high paid ones, and also the best ones on there. Um, so you want to research and see which of these graduate schemes you like. There's over 200, 300, 400 even graduate schemes that are live at any given time in the UK. You want to have a look and see which one sparks your interest. You want to look at how much they're paying for these graduate schemes, and you also want to look at sort of the growth potential and is the graduate scheme in the area that is of your interest, of your degree. It doesn't have to be in your degree, by the way. It can be outside of your degree. However, it needs to be part of your interest. And once you know like what kind of jobs that you want to apply for, what kind of grad schemes that you want to go for, that's going to make it easier for you. It's going to make you focus on the few that you do want to apply to. Now, you should cast your net wide and apply to as many graduate schemes as you can, because most likely the majority of the graduate schemes are just going to come back to you and reject you. That's just the way it is. I'm not saying that's because you're a bad person or you're a bad candidate. Even the best candidates, majority of the applications are just going to come back to them and it's going to be a no. So you need to have as many applications as you can. It's all a volume game, it's all a numbers game. But at the same time, you don't want to apply to every single graduate scheme out there. And the reason for this is because these graduate scheme systems, like the application forms and stuff, are really clever now. And they have things like ATS, application tracking systems, in there that pick up keywords and stuff like that. So if you're applying to something which you're not interested in, or you have like literally zero experience or nothing to do with that, then it will pick it up on the system and it'll basically chuck your application right to the bottom, like no one's going to see it. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Apply to as many as you can, which are all realistically schemes that you are going to want to do. Like if you were to get one of these schemes, like you would be happy to go on that scheme. Don't apply to stuff which you think, oh, I'll just apply for the sake of it, and then if you actually get it, you wouldn't actually do. Right? So just keep that in mind. Research what's out there, and again, use GradCracker, use Target Jobs. They have the most jobs on there. There's other job boards that you can use as well, but in my experience, GradCracker and Target Jobs are by far the best one. Okay, step number 2 of the blueprint is to get familiar with the grad hiring process for the given schemes that you're going to apply to. So in step 1, you're going to obviously look through all the job boards, find all the graduate schemes that you want to apply to, make a list of them in an Excel document or something like that. And then you want to get familiar with the graduate hiring process for those schemes. So most of these graduate schemes have a very, very similar graduate hiring process, and it's a very long process. Like it's a very long process. It has lots of steps in there, but that's just the way the graduate hiring process works. And I've covered it on my channel as well. I go in depth in this on in my course as well. So get very, very familiar with this, because it's very different to a normal job and you need to know what to expect. So some graduate schemes will have a technical interview at the end, some graduate schemes will not. Some graduate schemes will have an in person assessment center, some graduate schemes will have an online one. So you want to read through very carefully and see what the process is so you know what to expect. Some graduate schemes might have 3 tests that they they assess you on, and some schemes might have 3 tests and then a games-based assessment. So, you know, each one of these schemes will vary a little bit, but the general process will be the same. Like the general steps will be kind of similar. So get familiar with this, do your research, look at some of my videos as well. I go in depth on the processes that these graduate schemes use, and just get familiar with it so you know what to expect. Okay, so number 3 is going to be to make a win log. So a win log is a document which has all your wins in it. So all your accomplishments and all your information in it. It's just a Word document that has these things in it. And I tell you why this is important. When you're applying to loads and loads of graduate schemes, you're going to be filling out loads and loads of application forms. That's the first thing that they get you to do. And it's a very long and tedious process to fill out these application forms. Some of them are like drop down menus, so you just have to bear with it. But a lot of them are actually just free text fields, so you can basically copy and paste something into those fields. So make a win log, because in that win log you're just going to put down all your basic information. So things like your name, address, your education history, your work history, put all of those things down. It's almost like your CV but just in plain text. And then underneath that, you're also going to add in some accomplishments that you've made in your life. So some wins. All right. So what have you won in life? What have you accomplished in life? Have you got any accreditations? Have you got any certificates, any certifications, any extracurricular activities, that kind of stuff? You're going to dump that in the win log as well. So all it is, it's basically a document which has all your information in there and all your wins and all your accomplishments in there, so that when you're filling out these application forms, if they ask you about any of your accomplishments, or if they obviously ask you about your education and your work history, you've literally got it there. You can just copy and paste it into that form, and it's just going to speed up the process. So that's all a win log is, and it's a good idea to make one. It does take about an hour. It does take a little bit of time to create one time, but once it's made, then it's made, and you can just copy and paste that information everywhere where you apply. And the other reason why I call it a win log is because it's a quick win. It gives you a very quick win, because if you think about it, when you're applying to hundreds of graduate schemes, the starting application process is just really tedious, and a lot of the times it's very demotivating and it puts you off. You just think, I can't be bothered doing this because I don't want to fill out all of this information again. And the win log can give you a quick win sometimes, because if you're feeling demotivated, you've got all of the information there in a win log. So it's easier on your mind to think, well, I've already got it written in a document anyway. I'll just copy and paste it in. So it's like an easy win for you to get into the system. And that in itself just puts you in front of so many other candidates that would just get lazy and they wouldn't actually fill out the form, and they wouldn't progress in the hiring process. So number 3, make a win log. Easy cheat code that's going to really help you out. Number 4 is to prepare for the online tests, the interviews, and the assessment centers. Practice these often. So these are like the bulk of the hiring process. These are the big steps in the hiring process, and you do want to practice the online tests as much as you can. The websites where you can find these online tests to practice are a bit 50-50. Like I didn't really personally like them. The best way, in my opinion, to actually practice the online test is to actually use a different email address and then go through that same application, and check, like, see what the test is, and you can get a feel of the format. Now they do change the test for every person, so it's not going to be the exact same questions that come up when you go through with your real email, but it can give you an idea of the format and it can help you know what to expect. That's the best way. I mean, sometimes that's not possible because you're just so swamped with so many applications that you don't have time to do that, which is fine, fair enough. But if you can do that, it's a really great way of understanding what the test is going to be like. The other thing is the interviews. So you can practice the interviews with a family friend, or a friend, or a colleague, or something like that. I didn't do that myself personally. I was too shy to kind of do that, and I just found that if I did it with a friend or family, like, I would just give them the questions to ask me, and the questions may or may not be the ones that actually come up in the interview. So just on that, if you do want to practice your interview skills, I do offer one-to-one coaching as well, so you can practice with me if you want. And you can check that out in the description below. You can, if that is something that you want to do. And the assessment centers, to practice that, it's a little bit hard to practice the assessment center because obviously the group exercise is something you can't really practice, because it just depends on what they give you on the day. However, you can practice the soft skills that they will be assessing in the assessment center. So, if it's a presentation that you want to give, or they want to see how you communicate with people, or they want to see your time management skills, you can practice these things separately, and that's really going to help you excel. So, yeah, prepare for the online tests, interviews, and assessment centers. Once you know what they're going to be doing in those things, then practice those as often as you can. And last but not least, always ask for feedback and use this to improve for next time. So, I'm not sure if you know that every single application that you do is going to be able to give you some sort of feedback. Now, some applications will not, just based on the number of applications that they get. They'll probably just give you a blanket statement like, we don't give specific feedback, but generally, this is what your cohort was good at, and this is what your cohort could improve. Now, those kind of blanket statements aren't really that great. You can't really take that feedback and action upon it. But most of the graduate applications will give you some sort of feedback if you ask for it. That's the thing. If you don't ask for it, they won't. If you ask for it, then they will. So if you're at the test stage, then usually the test itself will kind of tell you whether you've passed or failed, and sometimes you can find out by what margin you passed or failed. Sometimes they use a percentage, sometimes they use like a score, so you can kind of see from that how well you did on the tests. With the interview, again, you can ask for feedback. So whoever took your interview, you can email them and say, "Oh, I was just wondering if I could get some feedback." If they've not given you the job, obviously, if they've given you the job, I mean, you've got the job, haven't you? But if I'm saying if you haven't got the job, if you haven't passed that stage, then get that feedback and you can ask them. And most of the times, in my experience, they've just come back and told me exactly like what they were looking for and what you were, and they kind of speak about the gap that is between you and what they were looking for, and then you can basically use that to improve. And assessment centers usually always will give you feedback as to how you did, and that is gold. That is gold. If you get to the assessment center, that feedback is going to be much better. Like that feedback is going to be very, very specific to you, and it's going to be the most insightful. So if you can get to the assessment center, firstly, that's great because not a lot of people do. And secondly, if you don't pass it, then use that feedback to really, really improve for next time. So yeah, always ask for feedback and use this to improve for next time. When you know what you can improve, when you know where you're lacking, you can basically just work on that, practice on that, work on that, and then make that better for next time. And it sounds simple, obviously not as easy as said, but it really is. I mean, in hindsight, like if you know where your gaps are, you just work on those gaps. And even if you have to fake it till you make it, like if they say you're not, you weren't very confident or something, you can just fake confidence in the next one, and that kind of fills that gap. So yeah, those are the 5 things that I would really want you to write down, keep in your mind. That's like the 5-step blueprint to getting onto your dream graduate scheme. And that is how I got into my graduate scheme. It's basically all of these 5 things that I used, and it really helped me out. Now, if you've watched this far into the video, you're obviously serious about getting onto a high-paying graduate scheme. And what I would recommend is that you check out my Graduate X program in the description below. I'm confident that it's going to show you and walk you through everything, fast track your progress by years. It took me 4 years to get onto a graduate scheme because I was just doing all sorts of random stuff, and like I just didn't know how to play the game. And it is like a game. So if you know how to play the game, which I basically teach in the course, you have a very, very good chance of getting onto a graduate scheme. I can't guarantee anything, but everything that I know, all the tricks and tips and tricks that I used, and all the systems that I put in place to get multiple offers back, not just one, I got multiple graduate scheme offers back, and I chose one of them, which is the one I'm currently on now. All of that is shown and explained in the Graduate X program. So you can check that out. If you want any one-to-one coaching after that, that's also available as well. If you want to ask some questions or go through your CV or something like that, more than happy to help you guys out. So all of that will be in the description below. And for this video, I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a like, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.